Hello. I'm Amanda Faust, and this is my Module 1 project. So, the path that I chose was the book Things Fall Apart, and then the two poems I chose was Janet Waking and The World Is Too Much With Us, and then the short story I chose was The Company Man. I think all of these flow really, really, really nicely together, and I picked them out for with an idea in mind. So let's start off with the things fall apart. Basically, the overarching work that I'm going to be discussing. The main theme is the idea that time, circumstance, and cultural upbringing can shape how a person reacts and ultimately falls apart. That's a very long sentence, but basically, what I was saying is that I think this whole book is leading up to Okinawa's demise, like when he kills himself. And it's just a ton of factors that just ultimately lead to his demise. It leads to him falling apart. He is the things, and so is the Igbo culture. A lot of things fall apart in this book. A lot of people die. It's a very, very sad book, only packed together in like 200 pages. Um, I think circumstance is a very big part of this novel. Just the British coming over, never good. Um, I think that was very, very impactful. I mean, that was when Okinawa killed himself. And then his cultural upbringing, obviously, with his father, that is such an important part of the book. Like him saying, I think this is one of the most important quotes of the entire book about how he has never shown any emotion openly unless it was anger. Like he only allowed himself to feel anger, and that's how he projected his entire life. Like the murder, um, the murder at the funeral, and sorry, I'm not very good at pronouncing the names, but it's he would rather show brutality than be weak in the eyes of himself. It's a very, very sad idea, and I think that is one of the ultimate reasons why he fell so much. Um, it's very, very sad. Obviously, Okinawa is the outcast. He is, I mean, by definition, exiled from his tribe because he murdered a man at a funeral. But also, I think more figuratively, he shelters himself from reality. He works himself up so much through his perception of his father that he doesn't know, sorry. He, um, he doesn't know how else to handle it. And he just gets so overwhelmed, and it's obviously it doesn't end well for him, and it's totally his own fault. Um, he, I think the idea of an outcast is so pungent. Pungent is not the right word. Strong in him. He is a very, very, very strong and saddened outcast. I think, and a very, very corrupt main character. Janet Waking is the poem that I chose, and this one is about the loss of innocence. But I mean, also she does keep her innocence intact. I mean, the whole book is about, or not the book. What am I talking about? The poem is talking about this little girl finding her hen that died. Very, very simple. But the girl is very, very young. We don't know how young, but very, very young. And it's just the very first sight of something being destroyed. And it is essentially the beginning of the loss of innocence. I mean, I don't think she saw that hen and was like, oh my god, death is real. And then, like, her eyes rolled to the back of her head and then she started chanting stuff. I don't think that that's how it happened. I think that her mind opened up a little bit more. Like, a puzzle piece went into place. It wasn't all at once. It was slow. Like, you fall asleep. It was pretty slow. And then, I mean, this quote kind of explains it. Like at the very end, the very last line is her talking about waking up the hen from sleep, and of course, that's not what a mature person would say. She's still very much a child, and while it is about the loss of innocence, it's more about the impending doom that's coming onto her. It's you read this poem and you're like, I wish I could be like that. I wish I wasn't afraid of death like she is. I wish that the most problem I have in my life was a hen dying. Sorry, I'm gonna take a sip of water. And it's a very, very sad poem. Just the destruction of something dying and just holding on to denial for dear life. She's obviously the outcast. I mean, she hasn't entirely woken up. I mean, that's the whole idea. Like, it starts with her waking up, and then she begs something else to wake up, and then she still really hasn't woken up because she's still in denial of death and reality. And I don't think she wants to get away from her outcast mindset. I think that she's fine with being ignorant. And that's it. That's the whole poem. It's a pretty short poem, a pretty not complex poem. I think it's just with someone that has been able to wake up yet. And she just wants her parents to do everything for her. I think there's a line in there that says that, but it's very, very sad. And I think one of the most things is destruction of once beautiful thing. I'll talk about that later though. The world is too much with us. I think this one I had to be a little bit more free with my connection to everything because both of the poems were pretty far-fetched from Things Fall Apart. So, but I really, really enjoyed this poem. I really, really loved the how he went about it. Like, the whole poem is about the beauty of nature and how it's gonna be destroyed at some point. But he does it in such a aggressive way. He talks about how he would rather be exiled by God and by Christianity and by mythology and by like godly figures than not love something that's beautiful. And he gets mad at humanity for doing what it does to nature. And instead of just talking about how much he loves something, he instead berates people for the ugliness that they've made, that they are going to make it. I think that he's definitely the main character. The author is definitely the outcast in this. I think that everyone else is everyone else, and he has this very, very, very strong idea about nature, and he can't shake it. It is everything to him. And he's just extremely, extremely angry, and it's not like a beautiful piece about nature. He's just angry at the world. He's very, 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 he very much berates them and argues, and it's a very, very unique poem, I think. There's a quote that says, "Great God, I'd rather be pagan, suckled in a creed unworn." And he'd rather be exiled as a sinner in hell than be like everyone else, which is such a stark contrast for outcasts. I mean, people usually just kind of sit and take it, but he's so outspoken against everyone else that he's a different kind of outcast, which is very interesting. The Company Man is the last piece of work that I talked about. It was a short story, and this one's very, very like the Unknown Citizen that we read about. I mean, it's pretty different, but it's more just about irony, about how a man overworking himself his entire life kills him in the end, and no one really cares, and no one's really surprised. It's like a dystopian, or at least how the author writes, it's a dystopian world where everything is dependent on how much one works. I mean, you could even argue that it's not a dystopian world, and that's just our world, which is very, very sad. But everything in the story is describing people and things as assets. Everything in like the world is kind of like an object in like a video game that you have to use later on in your quest. It's not, I mean, I don't think things have to be like that. I think you can just enjoy things. But this story talks a lot about usage, and it's very, very sad. I think a way I put it is that it's like the lack of peripheral vision. And like another easier way to explain that is just only tunnel vision. Like, you just see your goal, and that's all you see. you don't see everything else, like the other good parts of life, like love or growth or extracurriculars, just things that you like to do, not to expand your goal. Like, goals are great, but if that's your entire life, you are going to die from overwork and no one's going to care about your funeral. You have to balance everything. Um, the outcast in the story is definitely Phil. He exiles himself from reality. He has such tunnel vision. He cannot comprehend anything other than his work, and it's very, very, very sad. Um, he brought it onto himself. He completely made himself an outcast. It wasn't that society told him that he had to do this. He just did it to himself, and he doesn't have very strong bonds with anyone else, and it's very, very sad. Not much left to say about that. It is very ironic. I love how he wrote it. And then the ending part where it says who's been working the hardest is so, so good. It's just talking about how people only care about who works the hardest and not really like the depth to which your life is. It's just, oh my god, how much did you spend on that assignment? 10 hours? Oh my god, I spent 14 hours. How much sleep did you get last night? You got 5? Oh my god, I got 2. You're so lucky. Like, it's not, life is not a numbers game, and I think a lot of people think that. And I really like that stab at it. I thought it was really interesting. Okay, and then here's the very interesting part. The main idea, and while this might seem pretty elementary, I think that there's no other way to sum it up, is that things fall apart. All of these are basically about destruction. Janet waking. I keep on saying walking. I think it's just the K is confusing me. Janet waking is, sorry, I don't know why I started with Janet waking. Things Fall Apart is obviously about things falling apart. The whole book is about Okinawa falling apart, about all the factors that triggered his demise. There's no other way to explain it. There's no other way. The whole, like, every single thing that happens in the book are just cause and effect. Like, even before the book happened with his dad, that caused his demise. The child that he picks up, that's a cause of his demise. The murder, cause of his demise. The wives that he beats, cause of his demise. The white people that come up to his tribe, cause of his demise. It's a very, very, very black and white book, I think. Janet Waking is also totally about the same thing. It's about the destruction of a once beautiful thing and having to cope with that. There's, sorry, I don't know why I'm skipping over this so much. I said that it can either be caused by the upbringing or the lack of one. And she is not being taught anything. She just sees a destruction and has to move on from it. And has to not want it to be rewinded. Like, when you see a dead animal body, you can't wish for it to be 5 seconds earlier before it died. Or when you wake up and you're a child and you see your dog die, there's nothing for you to do. You're completely powerless, and that's just life. Things just fall apart and you can't do anything. But I think it's a very stark contrast with the world is too much with us. I mean, he's talking against people not doing anything, and he wants to do something. It's very, very important that he's denouncing so much with the destruction of nature, but he's also talking about the beauty and the growth of nature. He despises the ideas of religion and what it portrays, but he loves what it has created, if you do believe in that. Sacrifice. He would rather sacrifice himself. He'd rather die than be something that he's not, than fight for some idea that he doesn't believe in, like just blankly stating something. He's very, very much himself. I'll give him that. I think he genuinely thinks that humans are ruining nature, and if we don't do anything about it, then nothing will nothing will be done. The company man is also very, very much about the idea of overindulgence, that can totally lead to destruction. It is destruction in its purest form. I mean, smoking a cigarette, that's overindulgence. I mean, not just one cigarette. I mean, like a pack a day. Let's say a pack of cigarettes is overindulgence per day. That's definitely destruction in its purest form. It's very, very bad. Um, my grandpa used to smoke like 2 packs a day. It is just awful having to grow up with that. I didn't, but I can imagine. Um, it's disgusting. Just such a selfish mindset, I think. Um, that is so much destruction. I think that the world that this author created is just so ugly. And outcasts in the story are very, very, very connected, but also they contrast beautifully. I think that some of these outcasts suggest that demise will come or has come. Obviously, Okinawa is the outcast, and he beautifully portrays the idea that destruction comes. It comes, and your life is just kind of a cause and effect map if you think about it. It's like, oh my god, that breakup that happened that made me closed off from people, and then that made me do this. It's you. Our lives are just a cause and effect map. It's just a pre-writing map that we had to write, like in like second grade. That's all life really is. And if you just kind of think like that, you're never going to go down a dark path. But sometimes it's not like that with Okinawa. And I think Janet is also a very beautiful idea of an outcast for just destruction. I mean, she hasn't been destroyed yet, but it's coming. Like I said here, she will soon be destroyed by the loss of innocence. And this is just the very beginning. Like it's not like it wasn't like just now she got destroyed. It'll come. It'll come. The World's Too Much With Us is also a very beautiful idea of an outcast showing that destruction will come. He is the outcast, and he's saying that he would rather be destroyed than this ugly thing happen, and it's a very, very selfless thing, but he's very, very, very much outcasted from society, and he does that purposefully because he doesn't like what's happening. It's very much in his control. And the company man is the beautiful, very outcast. He exiles himself from reality. And I mean, the main idea of basically all of this is that if you outcast yourself from the truth, destruction will only come to you. That's all that you can accept. It's all you can expect. If you live your life in ignorance, there's no way you can successfully be happy and maintain that. There's no way. It's that then you'll just be living a lie. And I think that's really the idea. Is that you can't well, oh my god, what did I just say? You cannot force yourself to be happy unless you inhabit healthy mindsets. Even if you're weak, even if you have to falsely tell yourself, or not falsely, sorry, you have to purposefully tell yourself the truth every single day. There's no way you can be happy in this world if you're just ignorant of everything. Ignorant of the death, ignorant of the horrors you're projecting on the other people, of the horrors that other people are projecting on the other people. If you live in ignorance, you will forever be an outcast and you will forever die unhappy. I think that's the main idea that all of these 4 works are trying to portray. I really hope that this worked this time. Last time it didn't work. So I hope that you enjoyed my Module 1 project. Thank you.